The renowned Greek fabulist Aesop once reflected, "A crust eaten in peace is better than a banquet eaten in anxiety." It is said that when a person is feeling anxious, he or she has the sword of Damocles hanging over their head. The sword of Damocles is an ancient Greek story conveyed by Greek philosopher Cicero. In 1812, this story was famously painted by artist Richard Westall. The story goes that Damocles, a young Greek man, was discussing how envious he was of Dionysus, the king, because his job was relaxing and entertaining. After hearing of Damocles' remarks, the king then decided to let Damocles be king for a day. However, he would have a sword dangling by only a horsehair above his head to recreate the stress of being king and how much anxiety comes with such power. The Sword of Damocles can be closely related to many political scenarios throughout history, and parallels the saying, "With great power comes great responsibility." In the painting, Westall is trying to depict that having power seems like all fun and games, but in reality is stressful. Westall conveys this anxiety through the painting of the facial expressions of the king and Damocles, along with the placement of the sword in the painting. Being in a position of power can be incredibly overbearing at times. Even if it is just being the discussion leader in one's recitation section for a political science class, the pressure to perform well or risk embarrassment is palpable. In the painting, Damocles has a sword dangling over his head. By placing the sword there, Westall is indicating that being in a position of power feels like a sword is constantly looming over one's head, poised to fall at any given time. Although being king certainly has its perks, the fancy feast, the social status, and most importantly, the crown one gets to wear, it is one of the most stressful jobs to which one could be entitled. Being king requires one to take care of an entire country and make sure its economy and people are stable. This creates an environment full of stress which leads to anxiety and sometimes even depression. There is no escaping the work of a king, not even when sleeping or eating or dancing at a fancy ball. Damocles feels this anxiety in the painting since the sword is dangling above him while he is feasting. In the modern world, this can be related to the job of the President of the United States. Currently, Obama is feeling the sword of Damocles over his head because of the plethora of issues springing from the implementation of his signature health care law, the Affordable Care Act. President Obama has received much scrutiny over the law, thus creating considerable stress and anxiety for him to improve the law or eliminate it altogether. Westall's painting clearly propagates that Damocles is nervous about the sword being over his head. His facial expression, a very concerned one, demonstrates that the sword dangling over his head is doing its job and that it is enlightening Damocles on the reality of the pressures that accompany being king. Another detail that contributes to this feeling is the fact that Damocles' head is grasping onto the edge of the throne. This makes it obvious that Damocles is very uncomfortable in the situation he is in, and could not handle being in the same position as the king. The fact that Dionysus is hovering over Damocles with his hand stuck up and a look of exasperation on his face makes the painting even more taunting. The hand being there almost makes it seem as though Dionysus is trying to scare Damocles away into never envying his position again. Lastly, there are two men in the background that seem like they are spying on Damocles and Dionysus. This gives off an eerie vibe, possibly foreshadowing that something unfortunate is going to happen. With the combination of all of these characteristics of the painting, Westall conveys that the position that Damocles is in is not desirable, and that having power is not all it's worked up to be.